with Potomac Beads. Join me in making the Paris earrings. These are a fun twist on the Paris bracelet, which I know a lot of you loved. The materials are listed in the beginning and as well in the description below. If you need any materials, remember to shop online with us at PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu. Join me in making the Paris earrings. So to match the Paris bracelet, I decided to do an earring. Now, if most of you know from watching videos, I don't like to do things very, very matchy-matchy. I want them to look alike, but I don't want the same exact thing on my wrist as is on my earring, as is on my necklace. So I thought this earring would be a nice idea for a pendant if you wanted to go simple. You could actually make this the center of a necklace if you wanted to do an actual necklace version of it, since it does bend nicely, and you could amp it up a little bit more by adding one of the navets along the top. But I'm going to go in and using 6 IrisDuos rather than 4, make the earring to go along with the Paris bracelet. So I'm using Crystal Lab. These are a little bit different colors. If I was making a set, I'd use the same thing, and I'm going to have 6 of these IrisDuo beads. I have about 20 inches of thread on my needle, had about 40 because I used 20 for the last one, and I have some left for this earring. And I'm on a size 10 needle. You can be 11, 12, it's kind of up to you. From here, the first thing I'm going to do is actually add a stop bead onto my thread. So I'm going to pick up a bead off screen that's not included in the actual design of my earring here. And I'm going to take the thread through 2 times, once and twice. The next thing we're going to do is pick up the IrisDuos, all facing the same direction, with an 11/0 seed bead before and after each. So I'm going to go through picking up the bottom hole when it's facing with the dome side up. Once you get all 6 of these on, we're going to go ahead then and round out the design to make it so that way it will sit in this nice kind of circular fashion, which is going to hold our chaton into place. Unlike the Paris bracelet, I upped it from the smaller chaton to the SS 39. You could even up it if you wanted to the 47 as well. So I have all of my IrisDuos onto my thread and needle, and with those IrisDuos, like I said, I have an 11/0 seed bead basically before each. To round it out, take your thread and needle, and you're going to go back through the 11/0 seed bead, the IrisDuo, and 11/0 and IrisDuo. So we're back through 4 beads total, 2 IrisDuos, 2 11/0s. Again, this is going to round out the design and basically make our bezel for our chaton, which is pointed to sit inside of. Coming out the IrisDuo, I'm going to make the netting that holds the chaton at the top. The netting at the top is going to be a series of 3 15s, then 1 11, then 3 15s. I'm using the Crystal Labrador Full in the 11 to match the Crystal Lab in the IrisDuo. In the 15/0s, I have the Duracoat Galvanized Gold 15/0. Once you have those 7 beads on your needle, I want you to take your needle and thread through the next IrisDuo, skipping over the 11/0 that sits below. From here, on to the next. Now we're on repeat for 5 more times because we have 5 more IrisDuos to sew into. So adding your 7 beads, your 3 15s, 1 11, 3 15s, go ahead and sew the whole way around this piece. This piece also I did work on during one of our wrap-up videos. So from our Friday video after the actual Paris bracelet was done, I did an earring version, and this is kind of based on that, based on some opinions and then some design ideas that I had as I was refiguring it and making sure that all of the spacing was correct. So I have 4 of these in, and I actually said during that this would be kind of a fun, if you wanted to, poinsettia look if you use 5 11/0 seed beads between the IrisDuos and you go with red IrisDuos and green seed beads. It would have a nice poinsettia look to it. So going around in the circle here, I'm going into the design and adding in the last of my sides, adding in my 7 seed beads. I need to dump a couple more of my 15/0s out. And once I have those into place, I'm going to sew through that last IrisDuo and out the other side. Now I have all of these little petals or these peaks in between my IrisDuos. From here, I'm going to sew up through that first grouping of 7 beads through the 15s and the 11/0 and out. You want to make sure that you're going through the correct side, the first 3 15s, and not the second 3, and then out through the 11-0 seed bead. When I'm coming out through the 11-0 seed bead, I'm going to go around in the circle and grab 2 15-0s between each 11-0, which is going to sew over top of the IrisDuo. So 2 15s go onto your needle, and then you're going to take those 2 15s, jump over to the next grouping of seed beads, making sure that that thread's not twisted there in the middle, and sew through the next 11-0 seed bead. That sits on top of the IrisDuo. On to the next one, 2 15s. Grab the next 11-0 seed bead, making sure again that you're sewing from the first 3 side to the second 3 side, that your thread's not twisting. And again, up in front of the IrisDuos. So I'm going to continue around this whole circle, adding in 2 15s, and then sewing over to the next 11-0 seed bead, making sure again that those threads are not twisted and that those beads sit in front of the IrisDuos. You can see the cupping that's starting to happen, that we're going to go and drop in our chaton and get our actual design. This would also look great in snowflake colors as well too, if you wanted to do it and drop a nice silver or an opal in the middle. After you get your last 2 seed beads in place, you're going to sew through that first 11-0 seed bead that your thread was coming out of and drop your chaton down into the middle. You want to make sure and kind of spread that out, that your chaton is sitting correctly, and wiggle your thread a little bit to tighten it up. To make the chaton sit in nicely, you're going to sew back around this whole grouping that you just did, adding in the 15-0s. You're going to sew through all the 15s that you just added, as well as those 11s in between. What that's going to do is reinforce this top of the chaton, making sure that it's not going to fall out at all. As I do this here, I'll get about halfway, and then I'll make sure to pull tightly, so that way as I'm pulling, my crystal sits nice and at the top. All my seed beads are kind of cooperating along the side here, sitting nice and in order. I'll continue around. After you finish going around that first kind of top loop one time, we're going to go through and actually get to step up along the IrisDuo to add the outer beads. Our outer beads are going to be some 2x3mm rondelles, and I'm doing those in light tanzanite AB. Coming out one of the 11-0 seed beads, I'm going to sew down through the second grouping of 3 15s, which is going to be the one closest to the IrisDuo here. And then I'm also going to sew through that first hole of that IrisDuo and bring my needle out. To step up, I'm going to go from that inner hole that sits right along the bezel to the outer hole of that one IrisDuo. Now normally I would use white thread. It's a little bit hard to see white thread when I'm actually creating, so I use black thread, although it's hidden nicely inside this design. From here, I'm going to go around the outer edge of this Paris earring, adding in a 15-0, crystal, 15-0, and then into the next IrisDuo. You can make it even more fancy if you want to, taking about 5 of your seed beads around the IrisDuo, and just continue around the outer edge, adding in crystal with 15 on either side, and over to the next IrisDuo. As you come around the design, you want to make sure that at the very end, we're going to get ready. Oop, have some extra beads in there. At the very end, I'm going to get ready and add on my wire guard. I really prefer the look of a wire guard when I'm doing earrings. I think it makes them have a nice professional look and gives that nice polished look. And if you watched the Paris bracelet, in the Paris bracelet, I use the wire guards as well too, right before my nice clasp guard and clasp. So coming through and around here, I'm going to skip over that stop bead, on to the next, here adding in my crystal, and then as I come around and get ready to add my last crystal in place, what I'm going to do, after moving that stop thread out of the way, is I'm going to add in that wire guard. To add in the wire guard, I'm also going to use two 11-0 seed beads, just to make it a little bit more dramatic and to sit the crystal on a different angle. If you want to, I have this sitting here, that if you want to make it match to the Paris too, even more so, and have that match more, you can take one of the navettes, because you should have extra in the pack, and go through that first hole of the navette and then through the IrisDuo on the other side. And it'll sit pretty much perfectly in the middle there, and that can be your connection spot there. It's going to make it hang down a little bit more blingy. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, but I did want to show that since it is semi-matching the actual Paris bracelet. So I'm going to keep mine a little bit more simple than that and not put on my navette. I'm going to put on a 15, an 11, a crystal, and then I'm going to go through the wire guard. I'm going to go up through the wire guard and then down through the wire guard. If you haven't used them before, they're like a little horseshoe shape, and they have almost a tubular side on either end of them. After the wire guard, go back through the crystal and down. Make sure that your wire is hidden inside that wire guard, and that way it's not going to rub on the actual wire, the earring too. After the crystal, add an 11 and a 15 and go through that next IrisDuo. And there you have the Paris earring. So you have a cute set of earrings to wear along with your Paris bracelet. Again, you can make it as a necklace, you can make it as a set. You could even take the earring version and use that as components to make the bracelet as well. The final thing that I'll do is just sew around the outer edge here of my design until I get to the IrisDuo where that stop bead is started. I'll turn the project over then, bring my threads to the back, and tie off those two threads together. Thanks so much for watching the Paris earrings. Again, if you want to, you can check out the bracelet, which uses a little bit different materials and a little bit of different steps. Keep in mind, if you do need any of the materials, they were listed at the beginning as well as below the video near that subscribe and that like button. Let us know what colors you're going to do and what changes you might make by adding in the comments below. Thank you as always so much for watching, and remember, you can get your materials at PotomacBeads.com.